Hi, I'm B.J Richards, and I wanted to speak to you for just a moment about Source's new report about consulting in the healthcare, pharma, and biotech sector. This is a sector for consultants that we value at about $6.3 billion globally as of 2013. That's the most recent year for which we have complete numbers. So it's not a huge slice of the market. That's about 7% of all consulting globally coming from this sector. But it is growing in importance, and it is growing. We estimate it grew around 7% in 2013, and think it probably did about the same in 2014 as well. Healthcare being the biggest chunk of that, about 5.3 of that 6.3 billion, the remaining billion more or less coming from pharma and biotech. As for geographies, the biggest chunk by far comes from the United States. More than 60% of demand in the sector comes from the US alone, so it really is the commanding presence in this market. In the report, we break down those numbers for you a lot more. We have not only more sector numbers, more geography numbers, but also numbers by consulting service. So if, for example, you want to know the size of the market for operational improvement consulting in pharma in South America, we have that for you in the report. As for the trends that are shaping that market, far and away the biggest trend that we see is a global wave of restructuring and reform. It's, as I said, it's happening everywhere. It looks kind of different depending on where you're sitting. In the US, for example, it's still largely about the Affordable Care Act, and probably will be for some time. So a lot of regulatory compliance work happening there, a lot of restructuring. But then also in the US and pretty much all of the other big developed markets, the major force, or at least a major force driving all of this reform is an aging population. So a lot of older people with bigger healthcare demands being made on what are already rather taxed systems. And so we see systems kind of scrambling to deal with that. In emerging markets, it looks very different. And here we're talking about Africa, Asia, parts of the Middle East. There it's really about a growing middle class, and so you have people who have a lot more money and they are expecting a lot more from healthcare systems that in much of these markets are already pretty creaky anyway, and so that's really what's driving reform and restructure in that part of the world. Wherever you are, this means a lot of work for consultants around cutting costs and being more efficient, a lot of operational improvement work, and technology being the means of achieving a lot of that. And then technology itself warrants a special mention here. It is the biggest service in consulting in this sector, and it's probably the fastest growing. It's kind of neck and neck with operational improvement. Of course, those are very closely related, but the biggest service area, biggest growing, and that, of course, is not, that doesn't sound on the surface to be particularly special. That's happening in pretty much every sector. Technology is enormously important. But it really is a special case here, because when we talk to consultants and we ask them where they think the biggest opportunity is for new technology, for digital, a lot of them say it is in the healthcare sector. So it's really even kind of a special case within the special case, if you will. So that's it. That's kind of the short version of the report. We have a lot more detail for you in the report, and if you want to know more, we would love to hear from you. Thank you so much.